Okay. There we go. So welcome to our last formal session of the conference. And our session, and I have to do this for the camera, as you know, these videos are posted up on our website here in a few weeks. So if you want to watch yourself over and over again, it'll be posted on the website. So I'm just going to name the name of this presentation is Life After Surplus, Granting Computers to Students. And our speaker here will introduce himself, but Hugh Faulkner from Kent School District. And I don't know about you guys, but it's one of those things that you see all this hardware going out the back door into surplus piles, and you think, man, what can I do with this? Is there a way to utilize this in the community? And I think Hugh's going to talk a little bit about that today. So thank you very much. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I was told, I'm Hugh, first of all, I was told that this is my first time here, and as my friends in the district were prepping me, they said, given that you're going to be speaking on Friday, you might find a lot of people who are asleep or who wish they were asleep or who are dehydrated and all other kinds of things. So, yeah, I wasn't going to say the word, but so with that in mind, I will take no objection of anybody that just can't handle it. So, and just to kind of put us on even footing, last night I went to bed nice and early thinking I was going to get a lot of rest, and I've got a 15-year-old son who has Down syndrome, who loves me beyond all measure. And he called me he found my wife's phone, called me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Dad, how are you? Great. Called me at 3 o'clock in the morning, called me at 4:30, called me at 5:30, and I finally said, Jared, you can't call me anymore. And so I'm right there with all you partiers, having not done anything. To give you a little information about myself, I work with the Kent School District. I've been there for 3 years, and this is my first time in education, other than my own schooling, but I've never worked in education. Prior to that, I worked for 13 years at Microsoft in the early 90s, and in the 2000s, I was just doing my own stuff, writing iPhone apps and stuff like that. So my wife, who substitutes in the Kent School District, had an email, and she said, Hugh, what's IT mean? And I told her, and she said, what's a project manager do? I said, well, I told her. So I looked at the application or the job description. I said, I could do that. That sounds fun. And having still 2 kids in the district, we pushed 5 through total, but having 2 in the district still, I thought to myself, how much fun would it be to work in the district and be able to do that stuff. So that's where I'm here today. I am the project manager, IT project manager. I deal with all kinds of what's called student technology programs. We're going to be talking about one of those today, called the STAR program. That is the obligatory animation. There will be no more, okay, so you know. We're going to be talking about the STAR laptop grant. STAR means Student Technology Access and Resources. This is our program that we use to enable us to distribute computers to families who don't have their own means of getting computers. To help you understand how we can do this, our motto as a district is successfully preparing all students for their futures. So too, I hope that this can be kind of an interactive thing. I don't want to talk for an hour and 15 minutes and then answer questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go along. It'll keep me engaged as well. I've gone through this a few times, so I know it. So I'm not interested in it anymore. But to that end, I get calls 2 or 3 times a month from districts around the nation asking about this program. So to me, it seems like that there's a real need for it. And I know that when we talked about it with my cohorts, they said that there's a big discussion going on about whether or not we can actually do this kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to tell you today. I'm going to tell you our best practices, what we're doing, how we're doing it, under what law we're doing it, and how it's working for us. So, but that's our motto, and we want to help prepare your students as well. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. The Kent School District is the 4th largest district in the state of Washington. We have 41 schools spread over 72 square miles, so kind of a large district. Granted, people from Evanston, Wyoming, or out in Idaho or something like that who cover hundreds of miles, this is not the same, but this is actually kind of a compact area. It's a suburb of Seattle. There's cities all around us and school districts all around us, and how we have 72 miles of schools, I don't really know. But we have 28,000 students, give or take a few, depending upon how the count goes and when it's done. And we are the most diverse district in the state of Washington. We have 130 languages natively spoken in our district, which is a great challenge, and also it's an interesting thing as we do these distributions to try and speak to families who have this language barrier. And about half of our kids are on free and reduced lunch, which is one of the key factors. This started in 2003 as bridging the gap. It's a common overused term, I think, that everybody's familiar with. But at that time, the idea was to provide technology to families that did not have technologies. At that time, we were giving away desktop computers with 16 or 17-inch monitors, which were a real hassle to distribute. You can imagine distributing a couple hundred of those. That was no fun, especially since it rains all the time in Washington. It was not good. But Bridging the Gap started with the idea of providing technology, also helping to foster low-cost internet service, and then training for students and families so that they can have kind of the full meal deal, so to speak. As to inform our discussion here, we use this 2005 statement from the University of Santa Cruz, University of California, Santa Cruz, which says nearly half of all students, 16 to 19, who graduate, if they have a computer in the home, will go to college, will enroll in college. Whereas those same students, same age demographic, who have no technology, no computer in their home, only a quarter of those will go. So with that idea, and again, the idea of successfully preparing all students, we take this as a very serious indicator to us that there's something that we can do to help at least double the likelihood that somebody will go to college.
Just a question on that one.
Yeah.
Do you think that's related to the computer or related to SES?
I'm not sure. We're going to say it's the computer, though. Yeah, I mean, that's
for this discussion.
yeah.
Absolutely,
The one thing we can do is we know that if we can provide technology, then that'll be helpful to them. And then however it's used in other programs, and of course. But if they don't have a computer at home, it's kind of hard to continue on having engagement, especially since we're a one-to-one district. We have complete one-to-one in our middle school and high schools. And we have 8 middle schools, 4 high schools, and we're moving down into the elementary schools right now. We have 4 or 6 schools that have one-to-one. And by 2019, by the fall of 2019, we'll be completely one-to-one as a district. We will, in the fall, the beginning of fall school year, we'll distribute 14,000 computers in a 2-day basis, a 2-day period of time. So it's kind of an aggressive thing that we do. And as we expand that to the elementary schools, and of course that'll even increase all the more. Being a taxpayer in the Kent School District, I have happily supported the tech levies that have come about and taxed myself and my neighbors because, again, having worked at Microsoft, I saw the need and the utility of having a technology-based education and also an understanding of how to use the technology. So I, as one of the parents who voted for these levies continually, I was happy to do so, and it was great to see kids carrying around computer bags and said, you know, Kent School District and everything else. And it was kind of rewarding to see that as a part of their normal course of business of going to school. Of course, the big problem with that is we surplus about 2,500 computers a year. And for the most part, initially we started off working with HP. We don't use Chromebooks, we don't use netbooks, we use EliteBooks, HP EliteBooks at this time, at point in time. There are various reasons we do that, and we'll talk about that. But you know, when you essentially throw away 2,500 computers, initially HP would buy them back for I think $75 or $60 a piece, but they would charge us $50 to destroy the hard disk. And you know, since it had sensitive student data on it, we had to do that. So we eventually found out that it just was not even cost effective for us to do that. We could find better ways to use those computers. And of course, if we weren't doing the STAR program, we would be sending them off to some guy who would surplus them and take all the precious metals out and everything else and get scrap parts, and it'd be of no benefit to the district at all, other than the fact of somebody's taking away these computers. So with that, the STAR program is kind of born. And in order to do this, one of the challenges I've heard from numerous people, you can't do that. You can't give away state-owned property to people. And we use this revised code of Washington. It's RCW 28A.335.180. And it says, in short, in lieu of complying with how surplus equipment is taken care of, districts can elect to take surplus equipment and provide it to, key to us here as the indigent persons. So the words that are really important there are that districts may elect to grant surplus personal property to indigent persons at no cost. And so this is the law by which we allow ourselves to do this. We've had lawyers pour over this when we first started back in 2003. We went to the OSPI and said, this is what we're going to do. Did you have any problems with it? So we feel pretty confident with the idea of it, and it has never been challenged at all. But that's the RCW, the Revised Code of Washington, that we use to justify giving away taxpayer property to families.
How do we define indigent?
That's the next slide. So indigents, according to dictionary.com, is a seriously impoverished condition.
So it's free and reduced is what you're looking at?
Yeah, so for us, what we do is if you're enrolled in free and reduced lunch, they are considered indigent. If there's a stigma attached with being enrolled in free and reduced lunch for some families, especially some migrant families. And so oftentimes they will not sign up, and you can just look at them and you know they should be in this program, but they're not enrolled. And so another option we have is just compare them to the national poverty level. So if their federal poverty numbers are below, for instance, $24,000 for a family of 4 of annual income, then we consider them indigent, and we will enroll them in our program. If they're not enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program, which I use Skyward to just, we can look them up lickety-split and see if they're actually enrolled. If they're not, then we ask them to send in 2 months of statements, work statements, payment stubs, so that we can see and compare that with the national average or the national levels, and that's how we will determine indigence. So, okay?
Who actually is doing that administrative work?
I am overseeing all that, and when I have lots of interns, I'm having college students do that because I don't want high school students doing it because they probably know the kids. Whereas a college student probably doesn't know that family. So if I'm flush with interns, and I'm not always flush with interns, I will have the college students do all the data entry and everything else. Right now I work with food services or nutrition services for there are often times when I can't tell based upon my access to Skyward whether or not a family is enrolled in free and reduced lunch. So I will send emails, dozens of emails a day, and I try and queue them all up, but sometimes I can't, I'll get 5 applications after I just send in 20 applications. And the woman there that works with me, she's Johnny on the spot and will answer all the time, yes, no, yes, no. And so it's a lot of overhead for me to do that, but it's worthwhile to do that, and that's how we establish that. Of course, they have to be enrolled in the Kent School District. Since it was Kent taxpayer dollars that did this, we're not going to give it to somebody else as much as we want to help you. Which is a challenge for us because we have one of our academies is called iGrad, and iGrad has not only Kent School District students, it's a credit recovery program where students who drop out can go and fulfill their educational programs. But we also have one of the local community colleges, Green River Community College, are enrolled there. And so we have to be really careful to segregate those because we can't give Kent taxpayer dollar devices to people who aren't in that district. So that's one of the requisites we have. Also, too, the second thing it said, if you'll notice, was that had to be done for, where is it? Educational purposes, right here. And so when we give somebody a computer, we don't go into their home and see what they're doing. We encourage the educational purposes aspect of it, and we provide ways for them to do that. When we distribute computers, if I'm doing it or whoever's working with me, we will always say, now what are you going to do with the computer? And when they say I'm going to watch YouTube or go to Facebook, it's like, no, here's what you should be doing instead. So we always encourage that. But to that end, we provide them with a free Atomic Learning account. It's a shared account that we have. So, and I don't know what an Atomic Learning account costs for individuals. I have no idea. I know what a Lynda account costs, but we work it out with our own personal district-wide Atomic Learning account, and I can send you the contact information for Atomic Learning if you happen to have a contract with them. But they have a shared account that they use, so they aren't getting the individual reports like a person that logs in with Atomic Learning is doing, but they can go and view any of the 1,200 sessions that are happening there, and they have a special star credentials of password and user ID. So they go, and we have actually had people, I've had people send letters to me that they learned how to write a resume, or they learned how to use Office, or whatever it was, and what it's done, they got a job as a result of this. And that's really personally gratifying because you can see that the work you're doing is actually having an impact, the desired impact that you have for somebody. So that's how we fulfill that educational purposes ideas. We provide them with a free account to Atomic Learning. And when we distribute the computer, we distribute that pass. It's a little bookmark, but it has those password and user credentials to get on there, and we encourage them to do it. In our large distributions, we also do training for about 15 or 20 minutes, and that's part of that whole process as well, so they know that there's that component available for them. Right now, these are the computers that we have been giving. You can see through the years what we've been doing. As I said, we don't do Chromebooks or any more inexpensive things because we just find the durability of them is not great. Our use cycle is 4 to 5 years. I think we're even kind of pushing that down to 6 years on some things. But we found that we need a sturdy notebook to take care of that. I mean, you guys have probably seen computers come back from students, and they're not only disgustingly hideous, the crumbs and everything else, but sometimes they just don't hold up very well. So we found that these that we spend the extra money to give these out, and we have the durability. By the end of that 4 or 5 year cycle, there's still a lot of good utility with them. So right now we're doing the 6360s, which is the middle. That's what we did this year. Starting next year, we'll do the 2570s, and I'm kind of excited because I can fit 9 of those in a box as opposed to 8 in a box as I'm distributing. So, whereas I can only fit 7 of these in a box, the 6530s. It's just kind of interesting how it's going down. Not only that, but the RAM is increasing, the processor is increasing and stuff. And so what we found is that by the time these computers have lived their life, 4 or 5 years, they become ineffective in our district. They're out of spec. They don't have the processing power, the RAM, the video processing, whatever it is. And in order to upgrade those or maintain those, even to buy batteries, I mean, after 4 years, a laptop battery isn't going to last. You're spending a significant amount of money. And so we find that it's cheaper for us, or more cost effective, I should say, to just replace the computer all outright rather than try and maintain that. And we self-insure on these things, so it's just cost effective for us to just let it go and buy a new laptop. And my daughter, who uses that one, she's a senior this year, she was very mad that her little brother got a touchscreen computer, but that's the way it goes. Just wherever you fall in the cycle, right? I didn't have a computer in school. So this is how we've been distributing. You can see we started in 2003 here, this first year. We did 650 computers. Those were desktops. And then we've kind of wandered around. I started here in these last 3 years. And this year we've distributed 981 computers to the community. Yes?
Do you support this stuff as well?
Good question. We don't support it in the sense we support a one-to-one computer. We make it very clear, and I'll show you one of the documents. One of the things I want to share with you is the documents that we provide the families that they sign. Specifically states if you break it, get a virus, you're on your own. It's your computer because we're giving you the computer. So we don't. But for being a big guy, I have a tender heart too. So I will try and go beyond and above to help people. Oftentimes they'll get a virus or they don't know what they're doing, or if I feel like I can answer a question in 5 minutes, if the person's sincere and genuine, I have the time to help somebody. I don't need to take lunch for an hour. I can do something else. So I tend to help, although officially we know we don't. The only reason, of course, being is that if we had 900 people coming to me that year with help, we're hosed. So it's always mum's the word.
Well, because the reason I asked, I work at Clark County Skills Center, and so we draw from all of the school districts in Clark County, and I'm trying to put together a program where the districts send me their surplus, my kids' free habit, give it back to them to distribute. That's sort of my long-range plan here, and actually get it up and running next year. We were thinking about that tech support piece.
Yeah, and it's at the very least, I can reimage a computer for them or have an intern reimage it for them. Oftentimes they'll just get so many, you'll launch it and everything opens up and all these, free offers and stuff like that. They've been places they should not have been. So we'll just say, I can't fix it, but I can get it back to the way it was when I gave it to you. And you're going to lose everything, but they're happy to have that.
So no licensing problems as far as Windows goes?
I'll explain that. No, they have a full-blown version of Windows and Office on it. But anyway, so since the inception, we've done 62, 67 computers, which is, I think, great. Again, as that taxpayer, I look at the idea that we're getting even a year or 2 out of these computers. It's much better than having somebody else get enriched by it. So, and it's really kind of gratifying for me to see. We also track the number of students that are affected. We give 1 computer per family, And so which is always interesting, when they come to the distribution, they've got 3 kids with them, and we give them the computer, and they say, well, what about these 2? And so, you know, we give the computer to the family, not to the individual child. And one of the things that we do, a best practice, is as we do this large distribution, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we will mail home to the family a postcard saying that you're getting a computer, show up at this time. We'll also give each child in that family a postcard saying your family's getting a computer, show up this time. So they all come with their postcards, which kind of exacerbates the idea that we're giving more than one computer. The wording's very careful, you know, we're giving your family a computer, not you're getting a computer. But nevertheless, I view it, I think, if we just mail the mailer at home, it's gonna get lost. If we just give it to one child, he's gonna forget about it. So we kind of just deluge them with, you know, information, hoping that one of the kids will get it to the mom or dad and they'll show up. And so it causes some problems. But you can see over 12,000 students have been impacted in these families, which to me is a great indicator. It's a great thing to see that, you know, roughly these 12,000 kids who don't have the technology that we take for granted. I mean, I woke up today, you know, with this thing, and I did everything on it. I just got an announcement that I did not win the last thing. Okay. But, you know, they don't have that capability, so it's nice to see these families get that, and to me, it's an important thing. And this is just cumulative numbers. You can see how we're tracking the bars, or the columns are numbers of computers distributed, whereas the line is just the total students. So it's just on that upward trend. And what most gratifying to me is in the last 3 years, actually a third of our computers have been distributed in this last 3 years. So it's been a real, and I'll tell you what we've done to change things up. And when I came into this and I saw what was happening with the distributions going on, you know, these thrusts and these declines and thrust declines, I thought to myself, okay, so on this year right here, this first year, I came in with 8 days before the distribution took place. So, you know, I had no idea what was happening, just worked insanely long hours for 9 days just to get it going. And that next year I thought to myself, okay, I see a weakness in this system, so I introduced something else. And then I saw a weakness in that year, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna make one more change. And you can see we've, you know, increased by 40% this year, what we did last year. So it's really a good thing to see, and I think, you know, as I tell them how many of these 2,500 computers I need, it used to be give me 500, and now I'm saying I need 1,000 or more. And I could distribute 1,000 if I had 1,000. We've all, you know, we're 11 short from 1,000 this year. I can distribute as many as I can possibly get because the need is so great in our district. Okay, so here's some details. So we use the surplus computers that have lived their life cycle. We've placed Office 2010 and Windows 10 on the systems. These are fully licensed copies, and I'll explain how that goes out as well. The student has to be enrolled in the Kent School District, and they have to be on free and reduced lunch, or they have to be at that poverty level for income. And this is how it's done. All the prep work that's done, for the most part, is done through students. As the program manager or project manager for the student technology programs, I utilize students as much as I can. It's interesting, there was a discussion just an hour ago next door called the STEP team. And we have a STEP team too. Our chief came to me today and goes, I didn't know you were speaking twice. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you're doing a STEP, right? I said, no. So for us, STEP means Student Technology Educational Program. And these are 10 to 15, however many I happen to have, high school students who I kind of cherry pick out of kids. And they have an interest in IT careers. They have an interest in something. I see something in them, and I'll utilize these kids. It's like an after-school club for them. And they come a couple times a month and have meetings with us. We have programs that we initiate, and they actually administer this whole thing. I oversee it. I tell them what to do. But the distribution, everything, the cleaning of the computers, the imaging of the computers, the licensing of the software is primarily done through them and also through interns. So it's not taking up valuable resources. There have been years in the past where wonderful staff has stepped up because for whatever reason, I wasn't here at the time, but for whatever reason we needed to have help, and they've stepped up, and everybody kind of understands the value of this. So it's been nice and kind of rewarding that way. But prep work's all done, so we identify the computers, they're cleaned, and minor repairs are done, whether it be you know, a broken latch or a hinge that's bad, and we have some interns that we will send things to and say, try and fix this. It's a good experience for them in our support area. If they can't do it, great. I mean, you know, with me, the licensing thing, I have to have a valid Windows license on it. If I don't have a valid Windows license sticker on the bottom, I have to trash it because I can't use it. I can't relicense it without that. And so we'll look at those as parts. We'll take the DVD drive out of it and stick it aside. We'll take the RAM out of it, whatever it happens to take the keyboards. So we take these things and piece them out quite a bit. And that's all students that are doing that. They're all the ones that are working on that. They're cleaned, minor repairs are done. A district image is put on using SCCM, and the district image, has Windows and Office on it and some other minor programs. They're then etched, the computers are etched. We'll show you how that looks a little bit, and then their software is licensed and activated, and then it's distributed. So that whole process, somebody asked me how long it takes. You know, the imaging itself takes an hour or so, but we can image dozens at a time. The etching takes a minute, 19 seconds. It's, you know, so we have this thing all broken out, but again, it's done pretty fast. And through that summer, we're moving right now into the summer, is when we get those computers, I'll have interns working on these things, and we'll have 700 computers ready to go by November, having done through the whole process and just kind of boxed up, and we'll continue the rest of them throughout the year. So here's the software. So we are Microsoft registered refurbishers. I'll provide the website to you. I don't have it on here, I'm sorry, I just should have put that on. That's a good idea, note to self. But we log in here and we are refurbishers, and I can buy a license of Windows 10 for $6. I can buy a license for Office 2010. Why they don't do Office 2016, I don't know, but 2010 for $6. So for every computer, I'm spending $12 that comes out of my budget. I have budget allocated for this program. It's out of the funds of the IT department. And you know, so if we've done 1,000 computers, I'm spending $12,000 on licensing. There was a time we didn't have it this cheaply, and I'm working with Microsoft to get it more cost effective for us. We're going through some budget issues right now, which may not be unique to us, but you know, if I can cut $1,000 here or there, it'd be nice to do. So anyway, but I go in, we register these computers, we have to scan every single one, the licenses, we buy new stickers, we slap the stickers on, we have to license those stickers, and so that's through the refurbisher program. This unfortunately is run out of Ireland, I think, so if you need support, you got a 2-day cycle before you're gonna get something, just so you know. Yeah?
Does your district do Office 365?
We do, but we don't put it on these images because when they're no longer a student, that their 365 license only lasts for a year. So we don't want them to have to purchase something. We want to give them a piece of software that works forever. Yeah?
You said in order to be reused, the computers have to have a valid license sticker on them originally. So is that part of the refurbished program? You have to have an old valid key.
Yeah. So in order to get the new keys, you have to scan the old license, scan the new license, and upload it, and they send you the new documents. So if you don't have the old documents, the old license, you can't do it. And if you know, of course, nobody would try and do this, but if you try and reuse one, it already says this one's being used and stuff like that. So, but we do that for Windows and Office. We upload and download, you know, 1,000 licenses a year, and this is what the license looks like. So you can see here's the PID right here. This is what they get. We provide this with the computer. We provide one for Office and one for Windows. So in the computer itself, on top of the keyboard, we give it to them, we show it to them. If they ever need to reinstall the software, they can borrow anybody's disk to do it, or however they want to do it, and there's your license number. You don't have to buy this again. So we want to make sure that they know that, because that would be cost prohibitive to a lot of families who have a hard time even affording $10 a month for internet connection. So, but that, we print out thousands of those. All right, so here's an old computer. This is a 6360, looks like, maybe. And you can see on here, I don't know if you guys do etching or not, but here we, you know, to highlight the idea that this is voter approved. Tech Levy bought this. Here's when it was paid for, and here's when it was installed. And all the kids, you know, we see them carrying these around. When they open them up, they have this beautiful case that says pretty much the same thing, but that imaging is all there. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more animation. I'm sorry, because I felt like a lot of you would be kind of, what did I say, 3 sheets to the wind, or I'm not a drinker, so what's the phrase? Is it 3 sheets? Okay, 9 sheets, I don't know. But here's what I felt like a lot of you would be like, just like, oh, that's the wrong button. There you go. Okay. So what we do is we put retired on it at the bottom. And that serves some purposes for us. One, we don't want taxpayers assuming that these old computers that look all beat up are what they're paying for. We don't want them to think they're used computers today. The second thing is if you see a kid walking around with a computer, I mean, computers get stolen, and we don't want anybody to assume that this is a stolen piece of equipment. So we put retired, I mean, in you know, unnecessarily large letters. But that just helps to identify it as this. We don't want this computer anymore. It's not ours. It's theirs to use. Yeah.
I'm assuming that you have an etch machine.
3 of them. Yeah, which we're not using those anymore. Is that right, Travis? For the most part.
Only for repairs and then for the.
Yeah. When HP changed the rubberized coating, how long was it taking us to etch?
9 minutes.
9 minutes to etch a computer. So it's like, okay, thanks guys. And maybe they'll go back, but yeah, for this etching here on this metal, it really is 1 minute and 9 seconds. You know, it's nothing big. But we have these etchers that we bought when we were doing and we did all this etching ourselves. But now we're moving away from that because it takes 9 minutes per computer to etch. So I don't know what I'll do when we finally get those. You know, 3 or 4 years down the road, we get those ones that we're doing here for Star. I guess I'll take 9 minutes to etch. You know, retired. But I don't know. Or I'll come up with some other nomenclature to denote that it's not a computer we have anymore. But as you can see, the computers have some cosmetic problems in them. You know, they're not perfect, and we have families come back and say, you know, there's a scratch here, and I say, yes, it is. That's a scratch. Thank you. So, you know, for me, I don't care. I don't care what it looks like, and if you come back complaining about it, I'm going to tell you I don't care what it looks like. You know, it works. So that's all. Again, I have a big-hearted person, but I'm also we're giving you a computer, and you don't have one, so. Be gracious, and you know, who cares about a scratch kind of thing. I mean, look at me, I've got lots of scratches. So this is, you can't see this, but I will provide any of this information you'd like. You can also up to ksdstar.org, the website, and that's the last slide says that, and have all these documents available for you. This is essentially the application. We have the application in 6 languages on our website, and to me, this is a great, you know, I contacted a language class in one of the high schools and said, hey, we need Mandarin. Can you translate? You know, find some kids to translate. It's a good project for kids to have. So and when I try and do things, I try and gather in as many of the students as possible because I think it's a valuable thing for them to do. Not only one for the charitable aspect of it, but one of the requirements for our graduation is they have to have community service hours. And so this is just one of those ways of providing that for them. And it's a good way to engage those students who are not using the computers as benefactors, but who are at least helping other students receive them. So the application is pretty simple. We have an adult up here who will apply us, use the parent or the guardian. Kids, many of our families have to use the back for more kids. I don't know why we only put 2 on there, but there's lots of text. And then down here it says, are you enrolled in free and reduced lunch? And they'll check that yes or no. They never check it, or they do check it and they're not. It means nothing to me. I still have to verify every single one. And if you're not enrolled in free reduced lunch, what's your income? You know, how many people in your family? So we'll do it that way as well. And then we, you know, make it really clear that only 1 application per family, and you know, we're not giving away multiples and stuff. And then they will go and submit these. And come the first week of school, I will have 500-600 applications. You know, right now, the last application we put in was number 1,633. So that's how many applications we received this year. We've placed 1,000 computers. Not every application is valid in the sense that the kids don't qualify because of they're not on free reduced lunch, or that Indigents isn't part of their family, thankfully. It's a good problem to have, right? But that's what the application looks like. And again, we're happy to share any of this stuff with you guys. It seems to work for us. We use an Access database that we developed to track all this stuff. So essentially this is the form on here. Every year I meet up with our enterprise data guy and I say, hey, I need a table of all the students. And he writes it out for me, and I import that, and in here I have, you know, my applications that are keyed in. So this is what the college students are doing. The college interns are entering in, they're taking the paper application, entering it in here. They're checking a little box here. It says, you know, is this verified or not? They only check that after I tell them that, yes, this student is qualified, this family's qualified for whatever reason, free reduced lunch or income. And then that's just one of those key, you know, it's a database, it's a primary key we're functioning on. So if that's checked, then I know that that family is qualified, and we can run the query. Here's what the query looks like. I have like 1,000 queries. But we have an applicants table, we have a students table, and then we have schools. We tie this all together. This helps me to know which schools have how many students and stuff. And I'll tell you, when I came that first year, when I had that 8 days beforehand, the guy who I took over for said, here's the database you'll use. And I was so grateful that I knew Access for my days at Microsoft, because I was a program manager for Access. And I thought to myself, what luck? I mean, how would I do this if I didn't know Access, you know? So if you don't know Access, you can go up to atomiclearning.com and learn all about it. It's pretty good. But so, you know, we just run these queries, and these queries then end up telling us who gets these things, what families are qualified. And so we'll do kind of multiple distributions. This is the postcard that gets sent out to the families. And in here we'll have just a mail merge, put the applicant name. Down here we'll have the time that's put. And I go through and assign, so for all, you know, 1,600 people or whoever is qualified, I will go and assign time for them to come. And it's just math. I mean, we have this many qualified families for this distribution. We have this much time slice, 6 hours roughly. And we have about 20 families come every 15 minutes to do this. And so I'll put your time on there. If you come early, I'll ask you to wait. If you come early and there's nobody there, which doesn't happen, I'll say, sure, come on. If you come late, you're good to go. Word to the wise. When you do this, you can avoid a problem that I came across. When I was talking to families, I would say, make sure when you come, you bring your green card. And all kinds of red flags raised up. I guess green card's an immigration thing, right? So we're now yellow or orange. So don't do green, because everybody took green's my favorite color, so I chose that naturally, you know. But yeah, don't do that. On the back of this is directions to this facility that we use. Yeah.
Question. You have 700 devices. When you show the database, was the database selecting the end users that will receive the device?
This is showing us everybody that's eligible. Everybody we've verified can receive a computer.
Okay.
And so there's, I'll answer it in a second down the road. There's a couple different kinds of distributions we do, and I'll explain that in just a second.
Okay.
Right now, in fact. So we have, when I first started, we did one distribution a year. And it was a large distribution. We do it at a family youth center in King County, low-cost housing. And everybody knows where it is, and a lot of the recipients live there, actually, so they could just walk there and pick them up. It's a very large community center. It has a full-size basketball court and rooms and stuff, and we kind of take over the whole area. And I'll tell you, this last year, we took it over on Saturday. It's always on a Saturday, usually right in the middle of November, because that's, hopefully we're not raining too much, if we are raining at all. And the facilities manager didn't let the Iraqi class know that we were going to be there, and I had an Iraqi woman yelling at me in whatever she speaks, and she was a very, very volatile person. And I said, you know, I'm sorry, but I have 25 people here. And I said, well, I've got 700 people here, so, you know. It was interesting, but wherever you do it, we used to do it at schools, we used to do it right in the middle of our hallways and stuff like that. Wherever you do it, just make sure it's, you know, the facility's yours to keep, because it can cause problems when you have people who aren't supposed to be there. Every year we have kids show up who want to volunteer, but they either want to come for the pizza or they want to come try and get a computer. It doesn't work. I've had too many kids to fall for that. But this last year we had 20 families come every 15 minutes, which is a good clip, but it's also not just packed. You know, it's not, there's room to move. When families first get there, they check in, they take their card, whatever color the card is, they take their ID so we can verify that that's them. We have families who will actually print off their own and show up with ones that we haven't printed. You know, they'll make their own, which is kind of fun. We also have families who, you know, it said if you're an immigrant, if you have a bunch of families from Somalia and 8 of the families are coming, and you know the other 5 that didn't know about this, they show up as well. You know, so we use this. The first thing we do is check in. Are you actually supposed to be there? And and where's your kid? We don't let you come without your child. you have to have your student with you, at least one of them. I don't care which one. I always say bring your favorite one. But bring a student with you and bring your ID so we know who you are, and bring this. If you don't have this, that's okay. I can find you who you are through Skyward, but we have to have some proof of ID.
I'm assuming those invitations also are in all the different languages?
That would be a great assumption, but no, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, only because for that kind of granularity, for me to say this family speaks this would be pretty overwhelming.
You do the application that way,
Yeah.
but you don't, okay.
Yeah. But that's why we also sent to schools, because most of the kids in the schools speak English. And so they can communicate to the families. But absolutely, ideally, I would, in fact, on the application itself, right here it says primary language. I could probably be smart enough to say, if they say Somali, if they say Farsi, if they say, Karen, which is a language I've never heard of before, I could, have it print off that one in that language, but I haven't gotten there yet. So next year, maybe. Thanks. I was looking for something to do this year. So, we started with these very large distributions, and that's all we had. The thing I found in there was that about half the families would show up, 60% or so would show up. And you'd have these kids who were qualified to receive a computer, but they would never show up for whatever reason. And so the last year I started having these smaller school-focused distributions. I'm sorry, that's not right. The next year I had the big distribution, plus I also had 4 distributions at the district offices, which is great visibility for the board members to see and the superintendent and stuff like that. But even then, it was still about half the families that were asked to come would come. Yeah.
I'm sorry if you mentioned this. Is this during typical school hours, or is this an evening thing?
The main distribution takes place on a Saturday. It's from 9 to 3 is when the distribution takes place. And the other distributions at the district offices just take place like on a Friday, Thursday night, something like that. From 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock or something like that. But even then, it was still not very effective. And if we went back to those right here, it was more effective. I was delivering more computers, but what we found out this year was much greater. And so that's what changed. And that's where these school-focused ones take place. So what I did is I contacted a principal. There was one school called East Hill Elementary that had 180 180 families that were qualified to receive computers. And I contacted the principal because a gentleman came in who represented a community group. And he said, we're having a barbecue at East Hill Elementary, and we would love for you if you could donate 3 computers that we can raffle off to the kids. And I said, well, what is this? I haven't heard about it. He told me all about it. And I said, well, I can't do that. I said, these computers can't be raffled off. But I said, what if we do this? What if I give you 65 computers to do? He goes, what do you mean? So what we agreed to do, and this is where I got engaged with the principal, was they had their open house barbecue the day before school started. Had a big barbecue that this group organized. And we had a walk you through your school, see where your kids' class is kind of day. And we also had us sitting at a table, and we had applications. And people would fill out applications, and we would spontaneously qualify them. So get on Skyward, are they qualified, yes or no? And if they weren't qualified, I'd set them over a pile, say, we'll talk to you in 3 days or whatever it is, we'll work with you, tell you what's going on. But on that very first day, before school even started, we distributed 67 computers. And so when that happened that way, I thought to myself, this is what I need to do. And so the reason I have in that database, the reason I have the schools listed right here is because I can go and say, this student belongs to which school, and they're tied to which application. And I can go and say, so school, Kentwood High School, how many students do you have that are qualified to receive a computer? And I started going that way. Now, a year ago, we would not give families that had a one-to-one computer, one of these computers. I think that's a crazy idea, so I changed that. I favor elementary schools or those who don't have any one-to-one computers, but I'm fully happy to give a student that has, they have a high school student plus an elementary student, they can get a computer as far as I'm concerned. So we favor the elementary schools, but we also let everybody have it. And we've given a lot to the middle schools that have one-to-one computers. But so what I can do is I can go to our 28 elementary schools, and I can email the principals, and I email them all the time. Here is a list of all the students that are qualified to receive a computer. There's one school that had like 83% free and reduced lunch, and they had 3 applications. And I wrote that principal, I said, I have a hard time believing that the need at your school is not greater than these 3 families. Can you work that out for me? And the next week we distributed over 50 computers. They just kind of jumped on it. Yeah.
How do you work with the restriction on sharing the free and reduced lunch information?
So that's been an issue for us. And I'm very careful to make sure that any kind of information I send out goes only to a principal. These are the students in your district who, and a lot of these schools have automatically free and reduced lunch for everybody. They just give, lunch to everybody. And so, but everybody knows that in order to qualify, you need to be on this program. So I don't blast out an email saying, here's all the kids that are qualified. I'll do it very targeted to the principal. These are the students in your school that are qualified to receive a computer. Can you work with us? But every time I do that, I think to myself, and I've checked with our nutrition services guy, and he's fine with it. He's checked with whoever it is in OSPI, and they're fine with it as well. But yeah,
It puts them in a tough spot.
It does.
Because the language is so restrictive if you're reading it literally.
Yeah.
And yet, there are programs that students would benefit from, such as this.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to share that information with the right people.
Right. Which is why, so, for instance, nutrition services are the ones that they're the arbiters of the free reduced lunch. And so that's why I have a data sharing agreement with them. They can share with me all that information. So there's no problem between us communicating, but then reaching out, of course, and saying this family's qualified. When they don't show up 3 times, we're changing now to where we're calling the family itself. There are schools who do a great job at saying we're going to have a computer fair night. Come in, you can come and get a computer, and they don't necessarily say it's because of free and reduced lunch. But again, that's an underlying knowledge. When we do our distributions, we don't take pictures of families for the most part because, again, the idea of free and reduced lunch. But yeah.
So I guess that sort of is a concern of mine when your computers say retired on them. It's sort of a giant sign that you're for and you're getting this to you.
Yeah.
So is there any pushback?
There has not been. There has not been.
And the same question about the distribution events.
Yeah.
Has been posed.
That has not been. I mean, I have thought these very same things.
Yeah.
That's not been an issue for anybody that I've communicated with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're coming down and getting computers, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said you're at about 60%.
50% reduced lunch. Yeah.
No, but what I meant is 60% success rate in the applicant qualifying and coming down and picking up the device.
60% success rate in those that are qualified coming and picking it up.
Qualified and applied.
And picking it up.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't go out and pre-authorize people. I don't.
Right.
If they have to, if they apply and they're qualified, 60% of them will show up at the event, the big event, to pick it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you said you were going to get this. Do you ever get to a point where you've got more applicants than you have devices?
I do today. Yeah, I've got 1,600 applications, and I've got like 48 computers left this year.
Right. So how do you deal with that?
I'll get you next year. I mean,
You guys gonna?
yeah, it is. I mean, the applications were, first of all, 2 years ago, you had one thrust to get your application in September.
Yep.
And now, and even now, I still, I'll communicate with schools, and I say, well, I thought you couldn't do that now. I'll say, no, have people send in their applications now, because we're distributing all the time now through the school things we're doing. I will go to an elementary school, and they'll have called 7 families or whatever, come and pick up your computer. You guys applied for the computer, you're qualified to receive it, it's going to be at school for you. And so that's how we've gotten that extra, 40% that we didn't get last year, is by going to these various schools. And so I'll take an intern with me, and we will sit down, and then we'll train the staff of the school itself. So if we have 11 kids or 11 families in this one school, some of the schools have 40 families. And so if a number don't show up, I will leave computers with that school. I'll leave them in a box. Here's the paperwork. You've seen me do this. Here's what I need you to do. I need these numbers and this, I need these signatures, and they'll send that to me. They'll just distribute it, as the family shows up for something, or they'll make a one-to-one arrangement to show up. That works fine too, and that's helping to get, every day we have, numbers of applications, not applications, but licensing documents coming in that we just can't do ourselves. And so by getting the schools engaged, it's been really helpful to do that. Yeah.
What happens if I don't have Comcast at home or CenturyLink or?
You're 2 slides down. You keep asking us. Thank you.
Sorry.
We didn't work this out, right?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. Somebody else have a question?
No, that was the same.
Okay. Yeah. And that is the new large issue for me. We're getting the computers out to them. So let's talk about distribution really fast. So these are all students. Last year I had 70 students, I think, volunteer. They show up at 8:30 on a Saturday morning in November. And these are all boxes of computers. Each box holds 8 computers. And so, we come and they are listening to me talk to them about what we're doing here. But we have a bunch of different stations. This is where, you just see stacks of computers here. And this is adapters. And this is a station where they actually give the family the computer. I felt okay. This is the back of some guy's head. That's sorry, but this is where they're distributing computers. This kid has been there for 4 years in a row. He showed up as a freshman. He's, this last year, it was his 4th year of doing it. Cool kid. This is one of the STEP members. His name is Jonathan. He's actually training the families. We have 3 different rooms going at one time of training, very rudimentary training, not in depth. But we also, when I get volunteers, I will say, you speak Vietnamese, would you like to help translate? Or, and I speak fluent Spanish, so I do some Spanish stuff. But the STEP leaders, these guys, he did this first one because we want to engage other students. So he's training somebody. Watch me how I do this, and then I'll be here for you when you deliver it. So somebody who's not part of my program ended up giving the training with the help of one of the STEP students. And so I have the STEP students leading each area, the signing the documents, the distributing the computers, the training, the crowd control kind of thing. And every year, these STEP students they step right up. Okay, that's a good word. When I told somebody I had 5 or 8 STEP students, they said, "How many times have you been married?" But they step up and they take care of this, and it's really a good training for them. And they walk away. I mean, one of the girls that at one of these distributions, we have lunch, and I will give my pitch. We need more of you guys. We need some of you to sign up for the STEP team. Here's the perks of doing it, and here's what we're doing. And there was one girl named Tao Tran, and she was from just high school. Had been in the United States for 2 years. Didn't speak very good English. But I saw something in her, and she was excited about doing it, and she became one of the leaders in the STEP team. Now she's at the School of Business in University of Washington, which a lot of freshmen don't get into. She's a valedictorian. She was a Microsoft intern for a year, and just a cool kid. But these are the kind of caliber of kids that I have working with me, because they can have that capacity of leading things and doing things. So Jonathan's one of those guys. Yeah.
At the beginning, you had talked about how you have your college intern input this into the database because you don't want the student to know who's getting the computers, but you have students giving out the computers. Isn't that kind of a
contradictory? It could be, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I don't know that my kids care. My personal kids care that their best friend is getting free lunches. Right. We try and minimize that. I can't get 70 adults to do this. Yeah. And we've been doing it this way for a long time, and I'm sure those concerns have been around longer than I've been here. Yeah. I don't think, the spirit of this distribution is an incredible thing to experience, which is probably why people keep coming back to doing it. We had 7 adults this year as well, just parents come. We had our CIO was there as well, and it's a wonderful feeling to do this. And I don't think that's even an issue for people, but great question.
Well, then I guess I don't understand why you wouldn't have them enter the data.
I guess I'm trying to just minimize where I can, I think I'm trying to do everything I can to minimize that contact, but in this area I can't at all, unless we do it behind a curtain, I guess. No, anyway, so this is, yeah, that's right. This is a table where they sign documents. That's my daughter right there. She's one of the STEP kids. But they sign documents, and I'll show you what the documents look like. And but you know, these are a lot of these people here. I've seen year after year come and doing it. It's not easy work. I mean, you're there for 6 hours, and it's on a Saturday. But it's some of the most enjoyable work you can really do as far as community service. Because again, the feeling is significantly profound. And of course, that's what I bought in pizza. You know, so I budget hundreds of dollars for pizza and provide them pizza. And that's why some kids show up just trying to get pizza. This is, I'm sorry you can't see this. And I don't know how to expand it here, but this is our licensing document. There's 2 licensing documents that the family signed. This is the Kent School District one. Right here we put the serial number of the computer so that I can go back and track this computer that we bought at some point that's been surplused is now in the hands of this person who has this application. I can tie it all together. And so we hold these records for 8, 9 years, something like that, 7 years. So we hold these licensing documents here. So we have the computer serial number, we have the application ID right here, and that's how I connect it to a family. Right here, number 3, it says no warranty. So to answer your questions, I understand that I'm accepting the computer as is and that there is no guarantee or warranty, express or implied, of any kind from the Kent School District. So we make it very clear that, and I actually have them repeat it to me. So you know, by signing this, we're giving you this computer. It's yours to keep. You never need to turn it back. People still turn them back in for some reason when they move or they didn't hear it. And so I'll actually look at one of the kids at the end of we're all done, say, now when do I want this computer back? You know, I'll kind of make them say, because I want to make sure they understand that it's your computer. But again, there's no implied warranty on it. If you get home and a week later it's not working, sure. If it's a year and a half, you know. And I know when each computer goes out, so I can kind of tell. And you can also see, I mean, some computers just completely damaged that, you know, that it didn't go out this way, so I'm sorry it's that way now. Yeah.
I have a question for the next slide.
Here it is.
In that these are 4 to 6-year-old computers, depending on when you pull them from the classrooms. Let's say the computer works for a year and a half. How can a family reapply if they were using it correctly and all that it just died? It's, you know, it just was.
We have some families apply every single year, and oddly enough, I'm great with numbers. I can go through and you say somebody's name, I'll say, yeah, that's application 719. You know, it's a curse to me. I won't remember anybody's names here, but for some reason on this thing, I remember names and numbers and where they go. But so I see names come by. Yeah, they had one last year. In fact, I'll say 416. It was 416. You can see it, you know. And there's one woman that called. They left a message. One of the things we ask you to do is to call us and let us know you're coming to that main distribution. And so on the voicemail we got was, hi, this is Mary. My grandson's name is such and such, and we're supposed to be there at 11:30. We'll be there. And my daughter will be there with her computer. Her application number is such and such. And you heard the daughter go, Mom, you're not supposed to tell them there's 2 of us. You know, just and click, you know. They didn't show up. But I thought it was very funny, you know. So I don't mind you getting a computer year after year. But if I know that, I'll put you in the back of the queue kind of thing, you know. And again, we've always had more desire and need than we've had computers. But there are some situations as well, broken families, where, you know, kids move back and forth and there's multiple kids. I have no problem with that. Again, I don't want the computers, but I want to make sure they're going to families that are using them and benefiting from them. So, you know, I look at each case like that individually. Now, what was your question? On the next slide.
Liability for the district. Is there a disclaimer at any point that you say if this catches on fire and
We don't say that specifically because we don't use any Samsung products. Yeah. No, we don't. We just say it's their responsibility to repair the thing. We don't have any, and I think it says right here. Let's see. I accept receipt and ownership of the following computer equipment from the Kent School District and verify the computer is to be used for educational purposes. Yeah, it doesn't say if it catches fire. Okay. You know, it doesn't say if it's used for, you know, if you use it for porn. I'm sorry, you know.
Can't you just put a statement in there that Kent School District will accept no liability?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that under the warranty.
I'm going to edit that. So, yeah. So don't download this form until next week. And let's hope nothing happens until that new form goes out, right? And this is just a standard Microsoft ULET's Microsoft thing down here. It just says, you know, they can't reverse engineer the software we put on there as if, right? Love Microsoft. So here's what we've done so far this year. So far, cumulatively, we've done 62, 67 computers, over 12,000 students, and more than 6,600 volunteer hours, student volunteer hours, which is kind of a neat thing. And that's the distribution side we've gone again. One of the questions was, after you have the computer, you don't have Wi-Fi. So let's talk about that for a second. So we have a star kiosk effort, and we have these star kiosks in numerous locations. And it's a computer with, may or may not have signage on it, but it has a pretty powerful, you know, Wi-Fi that extends out 100 feet or something like that, that kids can go around. And that same community center where we do the distribution, there's one there, and there's couches all around it that the community center puts in. We asked wherever we put this, and usually in low-income housing places, we asked them to bring the internet connection in, then we'll do everything else. And so we have these out in the community. We have 7 or so. It's not enough. We're shifting that whole idea because with how ubiquitous internet connections are today, whether you're at Starbucks or McDonald's or wherever, it's kind of a moot point today, we think. But I have been working with this idea of the Sprint 1 million. I don't know if you've heard of the Sprint 1 million program. Sprint's trying to give away 1 million devices in the next 5 years, and so we're part of that program. But you know, that is a great challenge. And Carmen Ram, the CIO, and I are meeting with the Chamber of Commerce in Kent because we see this as that great challenge. They have the device now, but what do they do? We don't want them sitting outside of the classroom, you know, school when it's dark. We don't want them necessarily hanging out at McDonald's all the time. We don't want them doing various things. It would be nice if they could go home and have it. So this is one way we're going to try and do it. We don't know that's a problem for us to solve necessarily, but we're trying to find a solution for that. And so that's why we're engaging the community as well to see if we might be able to have, you know, student-safe areas where, you know, and I understand if I own a McDonald's, I don't want students sitting there for 3 hours and buying $1 Coke. So I understand that, but you know, there's also some community aspect to it that is helpful. So that's, if any of you know how you're going to do that, share with me, please. Yeah.
Have you considered any open source solutions, or because you're still spending?
Still spend a lot of money. Yeah.
$12
We have considered that. I think one of the reasons why we don't do that right now is because their use model in the district is Windows and Office. So we like to keep that consistency. But yeah, that's, I mean, I was talking to somebody about that this week, and that's something we'll look at.
Office would save you
Yeah.
$6 a box.
Yep. Yep. All right, any other questions on that? So again, here, you know, we're trying to provide technology to the kids, training skills, trying to give community service to the students around us, and also develop intern and student leadership capabilities to this whole program. So it's been going on for a while. It's as wonderful as it is to provide computers to families, and I really do feel it's a great thing to be able to do that. And again, as a taxpayer, I'm happy to get another year or two life out of the computer rather than having it go someplace else. So I don't mind it myself. I think it's a great thing. But what we do to tying in the students as well, having the students working the whole program, is helping them to develop skills and also some charitable aspect as well to help them see that this is why we do this. This is why it's important for us. You know, all the kids that show up at 8:30 on that Saturday to distribute all woke up with their phones, or you know, all drove their cars or something like that, and they don't necessarily understand the level of poverty that some people can face and the disparity that exists, and my kids included, which is why I have them engaged, you know, in this whole thing, because I think it's important for us to understand that. And so, and when you see these children who have a computer for the first time, even when it's ugly and beat up, it's magical. It really is. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And I'm not given to tears. Oh, I did it there too. Anyway, so there's the website. If you want to go get information about it, you want to get documents and stuff like that, you can do that. And now I am able to answer any questions, and we only have 10 minutes left. Yeah.
Some school districts are leasing the computers, so at the end of the lease period, it doesn't belong to the district, but they have arrangements where they can give it back to the community. How are you funding the computers that you are giving away at the end of the lifespan of the product?
They're with levy dollars.
Levy dollars?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah. And I mean, I think ideally what we'd like to do, it's been kicked around, is when you graduate, you take your computer with you. You know, that's,
Nice.
ideally, that's what we do. I mean, I have a daughter going to college, and I gotta buy her a computer. And, you know, one of these would suit her just fine for her college career for the first year or so.
I'm wondering in your area if you guys could get corporate sponsors, if you lived in a big enough metropolitan area that you could get a corporate sponsor to, like HP or someone like that, who would give you X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
So those families that were free and reduced could buy those computers that happen to be on a lease.
Yeah.
Because we assume, we're leasing, and we assume that at the end of our lease, we use Chromebooks. Our Chromebooks would be worth about $25, and we won't have to manage it. The leasing company manages it. So
Yeah.
it makes it simpler. But if we could find a way to pay for those free and reduced kids, that'd be a good thing.
And I think that's, I mean, especially with the changes in the budget that we've seen locally, I mean, I haven't really concerned myself with it for the 3 years because it's always been an ongoing program supported by the district. But now as I see some of the strains that are going on budget-wise, I am looking for people that even sponsor the, you know, I mean, who wouldn't buy a dozen pizzas for kids, you know? It wouldn't be a bad thing there. Because I pay for that right now. It might be nice to have Pizza Hut step up to it, yeah.
So my students do a recycling event every year, and so we take a lot of the donated systems and refurbish them and then redonate those to kind of get around some of this proprietary district pushback that we got.
Yeah.
So that's something else people might want to consider is just taking donations and having kids refurbish those.
Yeah, we do get, I mean, especially from some of our STEM classes that, you know, they'll get computers donated to them and then they give them to us, and it kind of breaks our cycle, but we still, you know, gracious to do that and take that. But it's an important thing, I think, to try and find a solution that works for you. And again, this is working well for us to the tune of 6,000 computers having gone out. That's no trivial thing. Yeah, sorry, what?
No, I appreciate the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So just curious, I mean, if you challenge that indigent thing at all, I mean, you live in Seattle making $26,000, you're not out buying a whole lot of new computers either. But, so is that free and reduced lunch, is there any flex in that?
So for the free reduced lunch, free and reduced are two different levels. And so, you know, when you look at that, if you go to this website, you will see the scale on there. I have that under the applications area. Or you can just, you know, Google federal poverty level. And the free and reduced lunch is tied to these different levels. So if you're at the reduced level even, you still qualify for a computer. You don't have to be free. And that changes every year based upon, you know, economy. But yeah.
Didn't do any of the hard work for Oregon, did you, find their laws?
I'll see what I can do to help out, yeah. Yeah, get with your legislators. If it doesn't, I mean, it's not in there, get the legislators to put it in there.
So legally, we're using an RCW to get to
Get rid of the
dispose of assets
Yeah.
that are, and it's tied then to education purposes.
Yep.
Okay.
And whether or not it's used that way, I don't know. But I mean, it's given for that purpose, and we provide tools for them to have an educational experience.
Okay.
You know, so hopefully they do. Anything else?
How about a big hand for our speaker?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
I'm thinking you will be around here for a few minutes if you do have questions that come up. Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
I like all the effects, special effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, so